If you're interested in maximizing your mental wellness, learning what your emotions can teach you, and living your best life, however you define it, you're going to want to stick around and hear what our guest has to share today. Hi, and welcome to the U World Order Showcase podcast, where we feature life, health, transformational coaches, and spiritual entrepreneurs stepping up to be the change they seek in the world. I'm your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist, here to help coaches and entrepreneurs amplify their voice, monetize their mission, and get visible, leveraging podcasts and the huge audience on the Gnostic TV network. Today, we are chatting with Derek Lakin, and his mission is to help others mindfully realize the preciousness of their own everyday miracles and live from a place of authenticity, empathy, and compassion, not tomorrow, but now. Welcome to the show, Derek. It's really great to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me, Jill. I appreciate it.
So, on to the big question. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
What's the most significant thing, in your opinion, as individuals we can do to make an impact on how the world is going?
We can know ourselves. I think that's hands down the biggest thing. I think that most of our lives are built around a massive web of distractions that we build intentionally to not face ourselves, to run from discomfort, run from pain and trauma that we haven't healed, run from emotions, negative emotions that we don't like. And we wonder why we're always exhausted and confused and not in flow with the universe and with our world. We are just so out of touch with ourselves that there's no way we can be in touch with others. So, in order to be in touch with others and to make any kind of significant impact in the world, we first must know ourselves. Yeah.
I like that. And I think it's so true that we're trained from a very young age to disregard our emotions. Don't cry. Men don't cry. Little girls are whiny if they cry. So we're taught to ignore our emotions, and
Mhm.
and it just gets larger the older that we get until we get to a point where we we come face to face with all of these big emotions that we've just ignored over the years. And I think you have some experience with that.
Absolutely. Yeah. With looking at ourselves, is that what you're talking about?
Looking at
Yeah.
ourselves and reaching a point where you're just overwhelmed with all of the emotions that you haven't looked at.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I'm somebody that has experienced depression most of my life. And um, mine is from chemical imbalance. So there are certainly necessarily necessary things like medication and therapy. But the biggest gift I ever gave myself was stopping running from myself and really looking at my emotional triggers that were leading to depressive spirals and learning how to, instead of running from those emotions, sitting with them, facing them. I'm a big fan of actually personifying emotions in meditation or in mindfulness. I do, if let's say I'm facing fear, I'll actually picture myself embracing fear and hugging it and feeling it relax underneath my embrace, and then asking it what it wants to show me. Because the uncomfortable emotions that we run from are only trying to protect us. When we experience fear, that fear is there just because it's trying to say, no, you don't want to do that because X, Y, and Z is going to happen, even though we obviously don't know any of that's going to happen. So we can, when we face our emotions, we can mindfully thank that emotion for its protection and for wanting to protect us. But we can also say enough. I've learned what I can learn from you for now. So I'm going to let you go. I'm going to release you. I know you'll come back to me. It might be, 2 hours from now. It might be 2 weeks, whatever it is. We'll address it at that point. But for now, thank you for your protection, and I'm going to go ahead and release you. And I think in my experience, that was a transformational moment or transformational series of moments for me, is that when we see that these emotions that we spent oftentimes decades running from are really just these tiny little nuggets, these tiny little seeds of hurt or pain that never we've never wanted to address. So we've built this layer on top of layer on top of layer until, what was once the size of a seed is now the size of a house, and it just becomes completely unwieldy. And we're carrying all of this weight. And the second we decide to stop and look at them, we see them for the seeds that they are. And I always like to say, they turn from lions to mice. We see them as they are, and and it's at that point we can release them and move forward in whatever direction that serves us at that time.
Do you find that emotions sometimes show up in your body before they show up in your head? I mean, we have this practice of um, pushing thoughts down that we don't want to address. And so while the fear is real and it expresses itself in our bodies, but sometimes we don't even realize that it's expressing itself in our body because we're
Mhm.
so much in our head.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. There's a huge emotion body connection. There really isn't an emotion that we don't also feel in our body. Emotions are not just mental states; they are physical states as well. Um, and by building these giant webs of distraction over the course of decades, we become dissociated from that emotional body connection. We from the mental perspective, we run from it, so we cover it up. We don't even look at it. But then when, let's say it's grief, and grief keeps appearing in your body over and over and over again, but you don't recognize it as grief because you're not mentally prepared um, to address it. Um, so in mindfulness, one of the biggest things that we want to do is reconnect with ourselves. And a big part of that is reconnecting with the how our emotions trigger our body, and consequently how bodily sensations can trigger our emotions. It's a two-way street. um, and part of the peace pathway, the 12-week program that I offer, is the first month is really all about, I call it, I don't actually think that I teach mindfulness. I just help people remember mindfulness. I think mindfulness is our innate state. That's where we naturally want to be. We just have to remember how to be back in that state. And really, literally, the first month of the program is remembrance. Remembering that we can sit with our emotions and that those emotions do show up in our body, and that we can use those bodily sensations as awareness that we're feeling a certain feeling. We can kind of reverse engineer it. So yeah, absolutely. We we all are very disconnected from the brain body connection.
Do you find with your clients, do you have experiences where they may come to you and say, I've got like a chronic stomach ache or a chronic back pain or chronic headaches, and then through the process of mindfulness, I'm not talking about this is not medical advice, okay? So don't anybody construe it that way. But do you have anecdotal evidence of people saying, once I went through your course, these things that I was experiencing in my body that were causing me discomfort have kind of melted away?
Absolutely, yeah. Um, Yeah, exactly what you're talking about. Certainly, I'm no kind of medical professional, and that's not the intent of the program in any way. But yeah, absolutely. When we are dissociated between the connection between our emotions and our body, we don't. It's confusing. We don't. Why do I have a stomach ache all the time? Why do I have a headache all the time? Or in my case, it was just absolute bone melting fatigue. I was tired all the time, and when we're disconnected from ourselves, we're always confused. Again, why am I feeling this way? Why is this sensation arising? Why can't I get rid of it? So then we get frustrated, and then we get angry, and then we get, why am I not as good as I mean, it's a whole funnel that we fall down. I mean, and that's ultimately what spirals and puts us in negative headspaces. Um, but yeah, as soon as we can reconnect our brain and our body, or our mind and our body, and we can make those recognitions on the fly. Oh, I'm feeling my stomach is a little upset because I'm nervous about this meeting later today, or I have a headache because I didn't drink my water this morning. Whatever it is, we start making connections, or we start seeing.
Hey all, I'm Jill Hart. We all know that legal matters can be costly and stressful. Finding the right representation and dealing with high retainers and hourly bills adds up fast. But what if I told you there was a way to have legal insurance, just like your health or auto insurance? Well, Legal Shield has leveled that playing field. From just $29.95 a month, you get access to lawyers for personal legal matters, from traffic tickets to real estate issues or even trust matters. Help is just a tap away on your phone. Call or text 435-764-0875 and use the code JILLLEGAL or start your journey to legal protection today.
The connections that were there the entire time. We just didn't have the tools to see them.
And so that kind of brings us around to meditation. What is meditation and what isn't meditation in
Mhm.
your worldview?
I actually wrote a three-part series on Substack about called Mindfulness 101. And one of the main questions that's asked in the series is, what's the difference between mindfulness and meditation? Really nothing. Um, Formally, mindfulness is just paying attention to your thoughts, or being curious of your thoughts and how those thoughts trigger emotions, how those emotions trigger bodily sensations on down the line. And meditation is simply formally practicing mindfulness. So we can practice meditation anywhere we want, and we can also practice mindfulness anywhere we want. And you can also be mindful without meditation. Um, so that's really one of the biggest things that I I have found in my experience, and the reason that I created the peace pathway the way that I did is because I want people to get out and start practicing mindfulness immediately. I want them to stop focusing on some kind of formal practice that only takes place in very controlled circumstances on a cushion, sitting in front of an altar or something. Certainly, that's a huge part of the program, and those moments of formal meditation are required in order for us to build the mindfulness skills that we can then take out into the real world. But ultimately, that's what I want to help clients do, is take mindfulness from a controlled circumstance to an absolutely uncontrolled circumstance in the real world. And then that's where the real power, in my experience, of mindfulness comes in. Um, is that when we can practice microseconds of mindfulness, somebody reacts to us in a negative way, they cut us off on the freeway, we can immediately practice mindfulness and catch ourselves and not follow that path of getting angry and turning a kind of negative situation into a very negative situation. If we can just, it's all about creating that microsecond of pause. So if we can just pause for one moment, we can change our life. And that's really what mindfulness is to me, for me, and for the clients that I help, is that real world application.
I I like to chop vegetables
There you go.
in meditation. It cooking can be a kind of meditation in that
Washing
you
dishes. Yeah.
washing dishes, cleaning your
Yeah.
house. I mean, all of the things that you do every day, if you do them with intention and you're paying attention as you're doing it and not just like listening to something or often letting your mind run wild, which,
Mm-hmm.
that's the normal state, I think, for people, which is really sad, is that they're having all of these thoughts, but they're never thinking about what they're thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at the thoughts as they're happening.
Right.
I wonder how that's helping me. to have that thought.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like watching a TV is what we're doing most of the time. Just
Mhm.
watching our own internal movies.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
But we have control over the channel. And I think that's what you're really about is like you can switch a channel. You don't have to just keep listening to the same show over and over and over again. My sister
Hmm.
used to call it, it's not my
Yeah,
monkey, not my circus.
exactly.
You can put in the VCR, but you don't have to bring the popcorn and tune in.
That's right. That's right. Or you don't even have to change the channel. You can just mindfully lean into the channel that you're already watching. You know, what can
Hmm.
I learn from this channel? Or what is this channel telling me about myself? Or, you know,
Yeah,
just looking at our thoughts with curiosity.
yeah. It opens up a whole new world. It,
Hmm.
it really changes not only your own personal life, because your inner dialogue really affects your whole being, but it
Hmm.
also affects how other people react to you. And so
For
your
sure.
relationships with other people change. Some people will fall away, but you'll find that the people that are really close to you will start mirroring back to you some of the things that are changing within you will come back to you as well. So it has
Hmm.
a ripple effect when you start taking care of yourself. And I'm all about selfishness. I think selfishness should be like a good word,
Hmm.
not the way it's been used in the past. Because if you're selfish about your boundaries and the things that you want to put out into the world, then it's just going to make the world a much better place if we'd all just like
Absolutely.
take care of ourselves first.
Hmm. First we change ourselves, then we change the world, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that is kind of my thoughts on how mindfulness can actually change lives. It's not even just your life, but it's everyone's lives.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm
So
not sure if you, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to ask you how do people get started down this path?
Down the actual peace pathway or just in
Mhm.
mindfulness in general?
Well, mindfulness in general, and if they wanted to work with you or learn more about you, how would that look for them?
Yeah, absolutely. Mindfulness is simple but not easy. You know, it's simply pausing and looking at your thoughts with curiosity. So pausing and saying, "Oh, well, what am I feeling right now? Maybe I'm feeling a little bit of frustration. Well, what is that frustration coming from? Well, maybe I, didn't do as well on my meeting that I wanted or my presentation as I wanted to do. Well, what are things that maybe I could do next? So it's just opening up that dialogue with yourself is all mindfulness is. And that's, one of the biggest things that I wanted to do with the peace pathway is take that stigma out of mindfulness, that it has to be this like formal process and it has to be complicated, and it doesn't. It's literally the most simple thing that we can do. Pause, breathe, and listen. That's all we have to do. Now, that's where the difficulty comes in, right? Because the second that we pause and breathe, we're going to find out how crazy our minds are. If we've never, especially if we've never looked at our thoughts before, it's going to be jarring recognizing just how absolutely wild your internal movie is. Um, and then, trying to sit with that and move through it and learn the lessons from it. And that's kind of where a lot of people fall by the wayside, because it's again simple but not easy, because it's making us uncomfortable, and a lot of us have spent our entire lives running from discomfort. So literally the last thing that we want to do is sit and lean into our discomfort in a quiet room by ourselves. It's literally like the last thing. It's like putting ourselves in a room with a lion. Why in the world would we want to do that? And that's where I have found that programs like the Peace Pathway can help us maintain those habits. Really, the first month of the Peace Pathway is habit formation, and learning how to create good habits is what creates our identity, and then our identity is what determines our life, right? So if we're going to create an identity around mindfulness. If we want to say I am a mindfulness practitioner, then we first need to start with the habits that get us there. So that's really what the Peace Pathway is all about. And anybody interested, just go to mindfulnesschangeslives.com and you'll see the 12-week program there at the top, and you can click on more information and enter your email address if you'd like to learn more.
And you have a mindfulness worksheet that people can access over there also.
Mhm.
You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I created this. So I sat and asked myself, what is the absolute fastest way that somebody can start a mindfulness practice if they had never even heard of mindfulness until today? So that's what I wanted to do with the Mindful Moment Method worksheet. Really, it's something that somebody can sit down and get started meditating in seconds. And then as soon as they're done meditating, they write down their thoughts so that they can sit back and reflect on it, and then take that information out into the real world. So yeah, it's a quick and easy download. I offer it free to anybody. Just enter your email address and you'll get the download immediately, and you can start implementing it today.
Awesome. And people can find you at mindfulnesschangeslives.com, and we'll make
You
sure
got
we
it.
put that link in the show notes below. Thanks so much for joining us today, Derek. This has been a lightning conversation.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
So to learn more about Derek and get access to his mindfulness worksheet, please visit mindfulnesschangeslives.com, and we'll be sure to put that link in the show notes. And thank you for tuning in with us today. If you have a podcast or are interested in starting one to get your message in front of our huge and active audience, be sure to reach out to us at jill@gnostictv.com. We love to help spiritual entrepreneurs and coaches amplify their voice and monetize their mission, and offer a variety of ways to do this on the Gnostic TV network platform. Join us for our next episode as we share what others are doing to raise the global frequency. And remember, change begins with you. You have all the power to change the world. Start today and get visible.